back to the channel. Yeah, this thing runs now. But before we get to that, check out how we got there. All right, getting back at it. Got the radiator. And what I'm gonna do now is make some mounts for it. So I made this cardboard template to put on the corners of the radiator, and then I'm gonna, you'll see, put a pedestal mount so it'll actually use the stock mounting locations of Fusion. So just gotta cut out some pieces of metal and go from there. So I got one of the pieces cut out of the template, and let me show you a little better idea what my plan is to put that at the cap. That'll be on all four corners, and then I'll have a stud welded here, and it's gonna be dark, but it'll come through there. There's a rubber bushing factory that I'll use. Yeah. So I got all the little bracket pieces I made taped up to each corner. So I'm gonna drop it in there and mark approximately on the brackets where I'm gonna weld. I'm gonna cut these up and weld those to those brackets so that we'll have a nice clean-ish installation or mounting. You might get a better idea of what I'm going for here. Got some pedestals sort of mounted on those plates or those brackets I made to go into the stock location of the core support and lower radiator support. So the way it's going to sneak in there is that lower portion all bolts down. So I'll be able to take that apart and I'm going to test fit it. Well, the pedestal stuff really didn't go as planned. So the bottom turned out pretty good. Got some rubber in there and it sits in the factory mounts pretty good. So lucky enough to have this little flange here. Made a little bracket so it can bolt in there. It's nice and sturdy. A lot cleaner as well, so I'm pretty happy with it. Last night I got the radiator mounted in there, and this afternoon, yeah, those are the factory Fusion fans in there, and they fit this radiator just perfect. And as some of you might know, factory Ford fans are kind of a go-to for a lot of hot rod build, like the Taurus fan and Mark 8 fans. I actually have a OEM Volvo fan in the Fox now, and it pushes a lot of air, and these things are going to be reliable because they were designed to be and push a lot of air, so pretty pumped about that. So in order to power up the iPad, or not the iPad, but my tablet that's going to run the gauges, I'm going to install this USB port kind of in the glove box. I already drilled a pilot hole here, and it's actually kind of convenient that there's a little vent there or whatever to slide the cable through, and you won't even ever see it when it's all installed. USB is in, so I'm just going to sneak it in through here and come around through one of these areas, and then I got some massive Velcro tape that I'm going to just put it on there. It'll cover the whole span at the back of that tablet, so it should work out great. I'm going to show you guys this cold air intake that AM was kind enough to provide for the Fusion. And while I'm heating up the soldering iron to make the connection for the USB port I put in the glove box, I'm going to finally swap that oil cooler that got smashed in shipping. So I got some fuel components today and made one side of line that's going on the rail, and already mocked up and made up mounting points. And I'm going to cut this off here. It's going to be where the fuel filter is going to be, and it's going to be kind of dark, but fuel gauge there, that's where that line will connect to, and so now I can terminate this line, and that'll be the first line of the fuel. There is the longest feed line in the fuel system. You'll see how the rest of the system will come out once I get the components in. I'm missing just a couple few hoses and fittings, but that goes on the rail, and this will go all the way back about where the stock fuel tank was, and I'm gonna have a fuel filter mounted there, and got everything else mounted nice, and it's tucked into the factory rails, so pretty happy with it. Okay, so here's the lines coming to the back of the car. Here's our fuel filter, and it's gonna come into there. Just waiting for more fittings, like I said, and it'll come through here, and regulator and pump will be in the spare tie well. So I started making this piece to mount the fuel cell. It's gonna be pretty simple, actually. It's gonna be obviously mounted on top of here of this angle iron. Hold it over there, weld some studs on the ground out areas over there, and should work out pretty good. Alright, as you can see, the fuel cell is in, and I even got the line and the regulator all bolted up to my bracket there. So I'm just waiting for some 90-degree fittings and 10 AN hose, and be able to test this whole thing out. Alright, as you can see, I've got the Deutschwerks pump in there, everything's plumbed. Now it's time to get this thing wired. Control pack, as usual, making things easy. There's my fuel pump positive lead, already fused and relayed, and then just hook up a ground and Bob's your uncle. Alright, 20 minutes later, it's all wired up. Got it mocked where I'm gonna have it ultimately. And I tested it quick with the ignition flipped on and off. I didn't want to run it at all because there's no fuel in here yet, and it's not a good idea to run these pumps dry. So I'm just glad it turned on and off. It sounded pretty loud, but it goes without saying with the external pump. So I think we're gonna go get some fuel and see how well this thing does with pressure and adjust it at the rail. And go from there. So I've been dreading the power window stuff because all these windows are controlled by BCM bullshit. So it's pretty obvious which ones actually give power to the motor. It's just that switching the polarity, if you will, to make it go up and down. I happen to have this switch, which I think was used for cutouts in the Fox when I first got it. It's been in my toolbox since 2014. Yeah, now I just gotta make it decent and work the other window, because I think I'm just gonna control both windows on one switch, and sorry rear passengers, no windows for you. So I've gotten ahead of myself before getting any more video. Made a bracket for the coolant tank. All the hoses are ran, and obviously the fans have been in. Need to do one more steam port to the coolant. Got a 90-degree fitting for under here. Can probably scoot it out here and have it go in front just for a little cleaner look to keep this side of the core support a little cleaner. And notice this guy, yeah, that's a heater core. So the oil cooler on these use engine coolant. And my theory behind this is usually these hoses here from the heads are being routed to a heater core. The only reason I use a heater core instead of like a conventional oil cooler or something is I was concerned about a couple things. Couldn't find one with big fittings with like 3/4 inch, and wanted the coolant flow. So it's kind of weird having it out here, but I thought I was ordering an aluminum one so it would kind of match, but maybe I'll paint it later. So hoping that'll keep kind of the oil temps at bay. And I got the trans filled. In fact, I think it was already filled, but yeah, those panels came in pretty handy. And also tried some factory exhaust, but we'll get to that later. And with all that happening, pretty close to firing it up. Got to do exhaust collector and hook up the O2 sensors. I was short on one, but I actually have an extension for the wires from the Fox that I ended up not using, so here we go. Sensors to put back together, and so yeah, now the real fun begins, making it look super pretty. So there you have it. The Fusion officially runs with its second gen Coyote. I can't turn the wheels because my Bluetooth drive shaft wouldn't pair up with the rear end for whatever reason. If you guys have an idea how to fix that, feel free to message me. But yeah, pretty big moment. But now I am going to focus on getting some Ackerman built out of these, out of the steering, because currently there is more angle on the following wheel than the lead, which isn't great for a couple reasons. There's a lot of scrub involved, and the leading wheel, even with JTP's knuckles, the angle isn't stellar, and I'll explain that right now. If you remember, the ball joint position for our new arms are back 3 inches from like a stock S197 setup, so I'm going to have to make some offset tie rods versus the straight ones that I made to correct that. So I've been kind of doodling and messing with some stuff on SolidWorks to make sure my theory is right, but it should work. So I'm going to do that, and I'll show you how to do that. I'm going to do that in the next episode, and then after that, this thing's going to get all torn apart so that I can patch all the holes that I didn't need in the firewall, in the floor, and get this thing the interior and cage paint it deserves, along with the engine bay, and then final assembly. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching.